9 Planning in India Chapter 9.1 History of Planning in India and Origin of 5-Year Plans. India after independence chose to follow a path of planning for social and economic development. Though the planned economic development in India began in 1951 with the inception of first 5-year plan, efforts had begun prior to the independence. Setting up of National Planning Committee by Indian National Congress in 1938, the Bombay Plan and Gandhian Plan in 1944, People's Plan in 1945, etc., were some important steps in the direction of planned economic development. Similarly, FormEcoCh Plan in 1950 by FormEcoCh09 envisaged a planned model of development for India post the independence. The Planning Commission was formed in March 1950 with objectives to promote a rapid rise in the standard of living of the people by making a scientific assessment of material, capital and human resources of the country and investigate the possibilities of augmenting them. It was the mandate of the Planning Commission to formulate a plan for the most effective and balanced utilization of the country's resources. It was supposed to determine priorities and define stages in which the development of the country was to be carried out. The planning was to be done via 5-year plans, with the first 5-year plan, FYP, launched in 1951. Growth, modernization, self-reliance, and equity were the objectives of 5-year plans. Because of the limited resources available, each plan decided which of the objectives should be prioritized. In all, Planning Commission formulated 12 FYPs before getting dismantled in January 2015. The Planning Commission was dissolved by the government in 2015 and replaced with NITI Aayog, National Institution for Transforming India, a policy think tank with an aim to make planning approach more inclusive and bottom-up. After the replacement of Planning Commission with NITI Aayog, the 5-year plans have been replaced by various action plans today. Pre-independence planning in India, the Visvesvaraya Plan, 1934. It was the first ever blueprint for Indian economic planning. The architect of Visvesvaraya Plan was Mokshagundam Visvesvaraya, a popular civil engineer and ex-Dewan of the Mysore state. The Visvesvaraya Plan was an exercise in democratic capitalism, as found in USA, with emphasis on industrialization. The plan aimed to double the national income in 1 decade. The FICCI, the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, which proposal represented the capitalist class, stressed the need for national planning, 1934. Commission for structured and planned economic development of the country. FICCI voiced its support for centralized planning and a greater role of government to achieve full growth potential and make a definitive break from the past. The Bombay. It was designed by major capitalists like Purushottam Das the Kurtas, J Plan, 1944. R. D. Tata, G. D. Birla, etc. The plan was also called A Plan for Economic Development of India. Plan was published in 1944 to 1945, and it had major emphasis on agricultural restructuring and rapid industrialization. It stressed on both heavy industries and basic industries. Further, it stressed upon development of essential consumer goods industry, enhancing the role of MSMEs and social welfare in order to check prevailing inequalities. Even though it was designed by capitalists, it had adequate provisions for active role of state in social welfare and income redistribution. Gandhian. It was based upon Gandhian philosophy and was put forward by Shri Plan S. N. Agarwal of Verda. It aimed to create a decentralized economy focused on self-sustaining villages and industrial development. It stressed upon development of agriculture, cottage industries, village industries, etc. The Gandhian Plan did not agree with the Bombay Plan completely. People's Plan. The People's Plan was prepared by M. N. Roy. The plan was based on 1945 Marxist socialism and aimed to provide all individuals with basic necessities of life. Its main focus was on collectivization and the establishment of state-owned industrialization in the agricultural and consumer goods industries. Planning in October 1946, a planning advisory board was set up by interim advisory government under the chairmanship of K.C. Naogi. The purpose of board. The planning advisory board was to make recommendations about coordination and improvement of planning, future planning mechanism, and to set objectives and priorities for plan development. The FormEcoCh Plan, 1950. It was outlined by J. Prakash Narayanan. It advocated self-sufficiency by limiting the dependence on foreign goods and technologies. The main focus of the plan was on agricultural and land reforms along with development of small-scale industries. Gandhi's technique of constructive work by community and trusteeship was at the heart of the FormEcoCh Plan. It also drew inspiration from the Vinoba Bhabha's concept of FormEcoCh. The key was to prepare India for a decentralized participatory planning by encouraging creation of self-dependent villages. Outline of various 5-year plans. First 5-year plan. Severe food shortage, leading to food grains import, mounting 1951 to 1956 inflation, etc., confronted the country at the onset of the first Haridomar 5-year plan. Accordingly, the plan gave priority to agriculture model, including irrigation and power projects. About 45% of the plan outlay went in favor of public sector undertakings, PSUs. Second plan, the second 5-year plan laid emphasis on rapid industrialization, 1956 to 61, with a focus on heavy industries and capital goods. The plan target growth, 4.5% actual. Envisaged that a sufficient capacity generation in the capital goods sector will lead to an increase of capacity in the consumer goods sector by increasing the production levels. Growth, 4.3%. Government established steel plants at Bhilai, Durgapur, and Mahalanobis plan Rourkela with joint investment from Russia and Germany. Shortages of both food and capital were felt during this plan. Third 5-year, the third FYP was unique in the way that it specifically added the plan, 1961 to 1965, development of agriculture as one of the objectives of planning John Sandy. In India, also, the objective of balanced regional development and Sukhomoy was adopted for the first time. Further, the plan emphasized on Chakravarti model, becoming a self-reliant and self-sustained economy. Also called Godgil, the plan was thorough failure in reaching the targets due to Yojana unforeseen events, Chinese aggression, 1962, Indo-Pak War. Target growth, 5.6%, 1965, severe drought, 1965 to 66. Actual growth, 2.8% rolling plans, due to war with China, 1962, and Pakistan, 1965. The production, 1966 to 1969. 3. Growth was in turmoil. The average rate of growth of GNP has annual plans rolled, been of the order of 3.5% per year as against the plan target, plan holiday, of 5 to 5.5%. New plans were made and implemented on annual basis, based on changing economic demands. Fourth 5-year, the fourth FYP gave special focus to the ideas of growth with plan, 1969 to 1974, stability, keeping the objective of self-reliance at heart. Droughts, target growth, 5.7%. And the Indo-Pak War of 1971 to 72 led to double-digit inflations, actual growth, 3.3%, high fiscal deficits, etc. The plan saw the first move in the based on Alan S. Mann and Ashok Ritter model. Direction of nationalization. To make availability of finance more inclusive, the government nationalized 14 major banks in 1969. A major thrust was given to green revolution under the supervision of M. S. Swaminathan. Implementation of family planning programs were amongst major targets of the plan. Fifth 5-year plan. The objectives of the fifth FYP were poverty alleviation. 1974 to 1979 was formed as minimum needs program under target growth, 4.4% D. PDAR. The famous 20-point program, 1975, was Actual growth, 4.8% launched during the cycle of 5th FYP. During the plan period of this plan, RBI was handed the additional function to stabilize inflation. Rolling plan. During this period, plans kept changing due to political 1978 to 80. Confrontations and change of government. Janta government put forward a plan for 1978 to 1983 emphasizing on employment, in contrast to Nehru model, which the government criticized for concentration of power, widening inequality, and for mounting poverty. However, the government lasted for only 2 years. Congress government returned to power in 1980 and launched a different plan aimed at directly attacking on the problem of poverty by creating conditions of an expanding economy 6th five-year. The 6th plan focused on poverty eradication and started with Plan 1980 to 1985, the popular slogan of Garibi Hatao. The plan gave an impetus to target growth, 5.2%. Creation of socioeconomic infrastructure in rural areas to bridge actual growth, 5.7%. The regional developmental disparities. A number of schemes and programs were launched during the life cycle of the plan, such as National Rural Employment Program, Restructured 20-Point Program, Village and Small Industries Development Program, Tribal Development Agency, Khadi Village Industries Program, etc. The plan gave special emphasis on economic liberalization. The plan focused on modernization of technology, ensuring continuous decrease in poverty and unemployment through schemes for transferring skills, TRISEM, and providing slack season employment, NREP, controlling population explosion, etc. 7th plan, the basic tenets of the plan were growth, 1985 to 90, social justice. The plan aimed at accelerating food target growth, 5%, actual growth, 6%. Grain production, increasing employment opportunities and raising productivity, with focus on food, work, and productivity. The Jawahar Rojgar Yojana, JRY, was launched in 1989 with a motive to create wage employment for the rural poor. Target was to modernize economy for productive employment. Government pursued idea of social justice in its schemes. It was the beginning of liberal approach towards private sectors. The plan was very successful as the economy recorded 6% growth rate against the targeted 5% with a decade of 80 struggling out of the Hindu rate of growth. By the end of the plan period, India had a very unfavorable balance of payment situation. Further, the country also reached insurmountably high fiscal deficits. 2 annual plans, 1990 to 1992. Due to political turmoil and worsening economic situation, fiscal imbalances, the 8th plan could not take off as per its intended plan cycle. The new government, which assumed power in June 1991, decided to commence the 8th plan for the period 1992 to 97, and the fiscals 1990 to 91 and 1991 to 92 were treated as 2 annual plans. The focus during these 2 fiscal years was on maximization of employment and social transformation. 8th plan issues such as worsening balance of payment position, rising 1992 to 97. Debt burden, widening budget deficits, recession in industry and target growth, 5.6%, actual growth, 6.8%. Inflation were inherited as a legacy by the 8th plan. This plan witnessed landmark changes with respect to the restructuring of the economy. The economic reforms had started the process of structural adjustments and macro stabilization policies. During the plan period of the 8th FYP, the need for redefining the role of state in the economy was felt and articulated. Government followed policies for modernization of industries, new economic policy, 1991. It gave major thrust on development of human resource for productive employment. Also, the 8th plan adopted indicative planning model. Indicative planning model aims to complement and enhance the market, as opposed to replacing it, through coordination between private and public investments through forecasts and output targets. Opening of economy. Via the liberalization, privatization, and globalization reforms led India to become a member of World Trade Organization, WTO. 9th plan, the plan focused on growth with social justice and equality. The 1997 to 2002 plan cycle stated with a slowdown in the global economy led by target growth, 6.5%. The Southeast Asian financial crisis, 1996 to 97. However, due actual growth, 5.4%. To the liberalization process started during the previous plans, the economy was out of financial imbroglio. The plan gave special emphasis to 7 identifies basic minimum services viz. Health services, safe drinking water, universal primary education, nutritional support, etc. It also structured special action plans SAPs in areas of agriculture, information technology, and social infrastructure and water policy. 9th plan aimed to depend predominantly on the private sector. Indian as well as foreign FDI and state was envisaged to increasingly play the role of facilitator and increasingly involve itself with social sector viz. Education, health, etc. And infrastructure where private sector participation was likely to be limited. 10th plan, the objective was growth with emphasis on increasing literacy, 2002 to 2007. Rates. The plan aimed to double the per capita income in 10 years. Target growth, 8%. The plan fixed monitorable targets for 11 select indicators of actual growth, 7.6%. Development for the center as well as for the states. Several measures were taken to reduce poverty and double per capita income. The targets included reduction in gender gaps in literacy and wage rate, reduction in infant and maternal mortality rates, improvement in literacy, access to potable drinking water, cleaning of major polluted rivers, etc. 11th plan, the objective of the plan was to achieve improved standard of 2007 to 2012. Living for the citizens, and to contribute towards the goal's target growth, 9%. It was planned by C. Rangarajan, with actual growth, 8%. Theme of faster and more inclusive growth. The plan gave focus to incorporate factors of environmental sustainability. Government pursued scale development goals and steps to increase agricultural growth rate to 4%. Government also took steps for reducing total fertility rate, TFR, to 2.1%. 12th H Plan, 2012 to 2017, aimed faster, sustainable, and more inclusive growth. The objective of plan was to give emphasis on sustainable growth. Health, education, and skill development continue to be focus areas in the 12th plan. The plan document stressed upon the need to harness private investment in these sectors. THE plan document took cognizance for the need of large investments for the development of infrastructure. To this end, PPP model was stressed upon by 12th FYP. Government set the target for time-bound electrification of all Indian villages. Several steps were taken to reduce social and gender gap in education. On economic footage, the target was set for penetrating banking services to 90% of households. Average 11th plan, average 12th plan agri, forest and fishing 3.74.0, mining and quarrying 3.9.2, needy AIOG. National Institution for Transforming India, NITI, AIOG is an institution that serves as a think tank of the government, providing directional and policy inputs. It provides government at the central and state levels with relevant strategic and technical advice across the spectrum of key elements of policy formulation and implementation. NITI AIOG was formed replacing Planning Commission in 2015. However, before going into the details of NITI AIOG further, we need to understand the reason behind dismantling of Planning Commission. The 65-year-old Planning Commission was more relevant in a command economy structure, but with liberalization and privatization, it became relatively redundant. With further movement of federal structure to cooperative federalism and competitive federalism, India needed a body with more federal representations which could foster competition as well as cooperation among states and union for better efficiency. Specific to the planning process, there was a need to separate as well as energize the distinct process of governance from the strategy of governance. In the context of governance structures, the changed requirements of India pointed to the need for setting up an institution that would serve as a directional and policy dynamo. With establishment of the NITI AIOG, an important evolutionary change from the past is replacement of a one-way flow of policy from center to state by a genuine and continuing partnerships with the states. NITI AIOG has the necessary resources, knowledge base, skills, and ability to act with speed to provide the strategic policy vision for the government as well as deal with contingent issues. It makes it a truly federal body working in direction of strengthening competitive and cooperative federalism. NITI works in developing an indigenous model of development, imbibing best practices from around the world and molding them as per our own needs and aspirations. 9.2.1 Objectives of NITI AIOG. 1. To foster cooperative federalism with the states. 2. To establish processes for forming reliable plans at the village level and then aggregating them at higher levels of government. 3. To ensure that the interests of national security are incorporated in economic strategy and policy in areas referred to it. 4. To pay particular attention to those in our society who might be at risk of not benefiting enough from economic growth. 5. To provide advice and to promote collaborations between key stakeholders and like-minded think tanks, as well as educational and policy research organizations on a national and international level. 6. Through a shared group of national and international experts, professionals, and other collaborators, build an informative, creative, and entrepreneurial support system. 7. To provide a forum for intersectoral and interdepartmental issues to be resolved in order to speed up the implementation of the development agenda. 8. Maintaining a cutting-edge resource center that serves as a repository for research on good governance and best practices in sustainable and equitable growth, as well as assisting in their dissemination to stakeholders. 9.2.2 Initiatives of NITI AIOG 1. Measuring performance and ranking states on the basis of their performance in critical sectors. NITI AIOG has introduced indices to measure incremental annual outcomes in critical social sectors like health, education, water, and sustainable development goals, SDG. The indices are: Index purpose, healthy states. It measures the health index through various indicators like child progressive mortality rates, sex ratios at birth, immunization rates, proportion India of people living with HIV/AIDS. The major weightage is given to health index, mortality rate, total fertility rate, and sex ratio. The indicators, our first edition was published in 2018. Broadly divided into 3 domains, viz. A. Health outcomes, B. Governance and information, C. Key inputs and processes. District hospital. To measure and monitor the performance of hospitals with a focus index, best on outputs and outcome. The assessment framework covers 10 key practices in the performances indicators across the domains of structure and output. Performance of district hospitals. Composite water. The CWMI is envisioned to bring about much required improvements management in water resource management and conservation in India in a coherent index, 2018. And collaborative manner. The index will measure both the overall progress made by the states in water management and the incremental improvement in performance across time. The index is expected to promote the spirit of competitive and cooperative federalism, and at the same time ensure sustainable and effective management of water resources. The index comprises 9 themes with 28 different indicators, viz. Groundwater and surface water restoration, major and medium irrigation, watershed development, participatory irrigation management, on-farm water use, rural and urban water supply, and policy and governance. School Education Quality Index, SEQI, 2019. To evaluate the performance of states and union territories, UTs, in the school education sector. It aims to bring outcomes focused to education policy by providing states and UTs with a platform to identify their strengths and weaknesses and undertake requisite course corrections or policy interventions. The indicators are categorized into 2 domains, viz. Outcomes, learning, access, infrastructure and facilities, equity, and governance processes aiding outcomes. Index 4. It has the twin mandate to oversee the adoption and monitoring sustainable of the SDGs in the country and also promote competitive and development. Cooperative federalism among states and UTs. The index represents goals, SDGs, the articulation of the comprehensive nature of the global goals launched in 2018 under the 2030 agenda while being attuned to the national priorities. It gauges progress of states and UTs on the expansive nature of the goals, including health, education, gender, economic growth, institutions, climate change, and environment. The SDG India Index 2020-21, developed in collaboration with the United Nations in India, tracks progress of all states and UTs on 115 indicators that are aligned to MOSBI's National Indicator Framework. These 115 indicators incorporate 16 out of 17 and cover 70 SDG targets. India Innovation. The index attempts to create an extensive framework for the index. Continuous evaluation of the innovation environment in all states launched in 2019. And UTs. The innovation inputs are measured through 5 enabler parameters: human capital, investment, knowledge workers, business environment, safety and legal environment, and the output through 2 performances: knowledge output and knowledge diffusion. Export. The primary goal of the index is to instill competition among all competitiveness Indian states to bring about favorable export promotion policies. Ease Index. The regulatory framework to prompt subnational export promotion, launched in 2020. The index aims to enable the states and UTs to benchmark their performance against their peers and analyze potential challenges to develop better policy mechanisms to foster export-led growth at the subnational level. The index ranks the states and UTs on 4 main pillars, viz. Policy, business ecosystem, export performance. 2. Sustainable action for transforming human capital, education, SADHE. It was launched in 2017. The vision of the program is to initiate transformation in the education and health sectors. The program addresses the need expressed by many states for technical support from NITI AIOG. It aims to identify and build 3 future role model states for health systems. The 3 chosen states will be assisted in designing a robust blueprint, evolve a structure for program governance, set up monitoring and tracking mechanism, and provide support to the state institutions to achieve the end objectives. 3. Ek Bharat Shreshtha Bharat. It was conceptualized to make our country united, strong, and promote excellence in all walks of life by means of long-term interstate engagements through cultural exchanges and education. All states and UTs will be covered under the program. There will be pairing of states/UTs at national level, and these pairings will be in effect for 1 year. District-level pairings will be independent of the state-level pairings. It will connect people through exchanges in culture, tourism, language, education, trade, etc. 4. Development Support Services to States, DSSS, for development of infrastructure. NITI Aayog launched DSSS for infrastructure projects with a vision to achieve transformational and sustained delivery of infrastructure projects. The key objective behind the initiative is to create PPP success stories and reboot infrastructure project delivery models so that a sustainable infrastructure creation cycle can be established. The DSSS initiative involves providing project-level support from concept plan to financial closure to states/UTs. It is to establish a center-state partnership model and reignite and establish private-public partnership across infrastructure sectors. 5. Transforming of 115 identified aspirational districts. It was launched in 2018 to ensure that India's growth process remains inclusive. It is an initiative to rapidly transform 115 identified districts that have shown relatively lesser progress in key social areas and have emerged as pockets of underdevelopment, thereby posing a challenge to ensure balanced regional development. The broad contours of the program are convergence of central and state schemes, collaboration of central, state-level Prabari, officers, and district collectors. The Aspirational Districts program promotes productive competition among districts through monthly Delta ranking. The program focuses on the strength of each district, identifying low-hanging fruits for immediate improvement and measuring progress on a monthly basis through Delta ranking. The ranking is based on the incremental progress made across 49 key performance indicators, KPIs, under 5 broad socioeconomic themes: health and nutrition, education, agriculture and water resources, financial inclusion and skill development and infrastructure. 6. Promoting inclusive growth. To leverage the pivotal role of Panchayati Raj institutions, PRIs, NITI Aayog recommended restructuring of the Rashtriya Gram Swaraj Abhiyan, RGSA. RGSA has since become a centrally sponsored scheme from 2018 to 19 to 2021 to 22 to address the challenges faced by the states. 7. Enhancing productive efficiency with long-term vision. New India. NITI Aayog prepared 14th A 3-year National Action Agenda and the strategy for a 3-year action agenda covering the period from 2017-18 to 2019-20. The framework allows better alignment of the development strategy with the changed reality of India. It is aligned to the predictability of financial resources during the Finance Commission award period. B. 7-year midterm strategy. The 7-year midterm strategy aims to convert a broader vision into implementable policy. C. 15-year long-term vision. It combines national social goals and international sustainable development goals. It expands beyond the traditional plan mandate to include internal security, defense, etc. 8. Development support to the Northeast. A committee was constituted under NITI Aayog to examine and suggest a roadmap for a new industrial policy for the Northeastern and the Himalayan states. The Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, DIPP, prepared Northeast Industrial Development Scheme, NAIDS, 2017, based on the committee's recommendation. NAIDS aims to catalyze the industrial development in the northeastern region, including Sikkim. The scheme covers new units in manufacturing and services sector, providing for central capital interest incentives. A. NITI Forum for Northeast. It was constituted to identify various constraints in the way of accelerated, inclusive, but sustainable economic growth in the northeast region of our country, and also to recommend suitable interventions for addressing the identified constraint. 9. Island Development Agency, IDA. It was set up in June 2017. It undertakes reviews on the progress relating to holistic development of identified islands. The agency is chaired by the Home Minister of India. 10. Health and nutrition sector reforms. A. National Nutrition Strategy. The Aayog formulate the National Nutrition Strategy that provides the rationale and roadmap for policymakers to bring nutrition to the center of the stage in India's development agenda. It focuses on intersectoral convergence and identifies priority districts to tackle malnutrition and meet the country's nutrition needs and targets. B. Poshan Abhiyan. It was launched on the occasion of International Women's Day, 2018. It directs the attention of the country towards the problem of malnutrition and addresses it in a mission mode. The flagship program of the government of India aims to improve nutritional outcomes for children 0 to 6 years age, pregnant women and lactating mothers. Poshan Abhiyan strives to reduce the level of stunting, undernutrition, anemia and low birth weight by 2%, 3%, and 2% respectively. 11. Driving India's energy sector. A. Renewable Electricity Roadmap 2030. The report was brought out by NITI Aayog with support of CII, Shakti Sustainable Energy Foundation and RAP in 2015. The report talks about the current scenario of renewable energy in India and what needs to be done for its accelerated deployment to address energy security concerns. B. Draft National Energy Policy, NEP. It was unveiled in 2017. The 4 key objectives of the new energy policy are ensuring access to energy at affordable prices, improving energy security, and reducing dependence on fossil fuels, promoting greater sustainability, and ensuring sustained economic growth. 12. Cross-sectoral interventions. A. Task Force on Employment and Exports. In September 2017, NITI Aayog constituted a high-level task force on employment and exports. To address the challenge of creating well-paid, formal sector jobs, the task force made seminal suggestions such as 1. Addressing issues related to logistics, export credits, and trade facilitation. 2. Identifying key macroeconomic factors constraining exports and suggesting methods to address these constraints. 3. A comprehensive plan of action to boost India's export in labor-intensive vector. 4. Assessing the effectiveness of existing schemes to promote exports, etc. 13. Partnerships with national and international organizations. A. Samavesh. It is a program launched by the NITI Aayog to link together various lead knowledge and research institutions to catalyze development processes, enhance institutional capacity development, and enable a field-level interface with the community for mutual enrichment. The network will enable efficient knowledge sharing and information exchange among all partners to fulfill their role in transformative policy reform, so as to achieve sustainable and more inclusive development in line with sustainable development goals as well as 15-year vision, 7-year strategy, and 3-year action plan of NITI Aayog. B. Champions of Change. 2 workshops of young CEOs and young entrepreneurs were organized to make policy making responsive to stakeholder consultations. 14. Promoting entrepreneurial ecosystem. A. Atal Innovation Mission. It is a flagship initiative of the government of India to promote and create a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship in the country. AIM's objective is to develop new programs and policies for fostering innovation in different sectors of the economy. It creates an umbrella structure to oversee the innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem of the country. B. Atal Tinkering Labs. ATL's Atal Innovation Mission has established Atal Tinkering Laboratories, ATLs, in schools across India. The objective of this scheme is to foster curiosity, creativity, and imagination in young minds, and inculcate skills such as design mindset, computational thinking, adaptive learning, physical computing, etc. Atoll Incubation Centers, AICAM, intends to support the establishment of new greenfield incubation centers called Atoll Incubation Centers, AICs, that would nurture innovation startups in their pursuit to become scalable and sustainable business enterprises. AEM will support these AICs in creating world-class incubation facilities across the country with a state-of-the-art physical infrastructure coupled with the availability of sectoral experts for mentoring. Under the Atoll Incubation Centers AIC program, more than 100 institutions have been selected for setting up incubators around the country in a mix of Tier 1, 2, and 3 cities. D. Women Entrepreneurship Platform. Needy AIOG launched the Women Entrepreneurship Platform, WEP, for providing an ecosystem for budding and existing women entrepreneurs across the country. As an enabling platform, WEP is built on 3 pillars viz. Ikashakti, motivation, Giant Shakti, knowledge, and Karma Shakti, support. It aims to help women realize their entrepreneurial aspirations, scale up innovative initiatives, and chalk out sustainable, long-term strategies for their businesses. 15 reforms in agriculture. A. Model Act on Agricultural Land Leasing Act. Needy AIOG formulated a Model Agricultural Land Leasing Act, 2016 to recognize the rights of the tenant and safeguard interest of landowners. An act to permit and facilitate leasing of agricultural land, to improve agricultural efficiency and equity, access to land by the landless and semi-landless poor, occupational diversity, and for accelerated rural growth and transformation. The Model Act proposes to legalize land leasing to promote agricultural efficiency, equity, and power reduction. Further, the Act provides for the landlord to lease the land with mutual consent for agriculture and allied activities. The Act makes provisions strengthening the infrastructure for institutional loan, insurance, and disaster relief so that the leaseholder may invest more in agriculture. The Model Act also makes a provision of special land tribunal to amicably resolve the dispute between the landlord and leaseholder. B. Agricultural Marketing and Farmer-Friendly Reforms Index. Needy AIOG developed the first ever Agriculture Marketing and Farmer-Friendly Reforms Index to sensitize states about the need to undertake reforms in 3 key areas of agriculture market: land lease and forestry on private land. 7 indicators have been developed by Needy in this regard. The indicators highlight competitiveness, efficiency, and transparency in agricultural markets. Also, the indicators also measure the opportunities for farmers to benefit from modern trade and commerce. 16 other major achievements of Needy AIOG. Needy AIOG has constituted a committee of chief ministers on digital payments to promote transparency, financial inclusion, and a healthy financial ecosystem nationwide. To incentivize the use of digital payments across all the sections of the society, Needy AIOG launched Lucky Grahak Yojana and DG Dan Vyapar Yojana. Needy AIOG has created a subgroup of chief ministers, CMs, on rationalization of centrally sponsored schemes, CSSs. Based on the recommendations of this subgroup, existing CSSs have been rationalized into 28 umbrella schemes. On the same line, subgroup of CMs have been made on skill development and Swatch Vardapian. Further, to promote cooperative and competitive federalism, Needy AIOG has come out with indices to measure incremental annual outcomes in critical social sectors like health, education, and water with a view to nudge the states into competing with each other and at the same time sharing best practices and innovation. Needy AIOG has created a task force on elimination of poverty in India. The report of this task force primarily focuses on issues of measurement of poverty and strategies to combat poverty. The task force has impressed upon the need for employment-intensive rapid growth and effective implementation of anti-poverty programs. Further, Needy AIOG has initiated a Transforming India lecture series. It recognizes knowledge building and transfer as the enabler of real transformation in states. The lecture series aims to bring cutting-edge ideas in development policy to Indian policymakers. India also, as a measure to reform and overhaul the medical education ecosystem in India, Needy AIOG has recommended scrapping of the Medical Council of and envisaged a National Medical Commission in its place to create a robust education infrastructure. In addition, Needy AIOG, along with Institute for Competitiveness, releases the India Innovation Index, which examines the innovation capabilities and performance of the states and union territories. The innovation inputs are measured through 5 enabler parameters viz. Human capital, investment, knowledge workers, business environment, safety, and legal environment. Knowledge output and knowledge diffusion were identified as performance parameters. Further, Needy AIOG has come with a national strategy for artificial intelligence to harness the benefit of AI in various sectors. Needy AIOG has decided to focus on 5 sectors that are envisioned to benefit most from AI in solving societal needs viz. Healthcare, agriculture, education, smart cities/infrastructure, and smart mobility and transportation. Also, to give a boost to the infrastructure development in the country, Needy AIOG has developed the asset monetization pipeline. The strategic objective of the program, according to Needy AIOG, is to unlock the value of investments in brownfield public sector assets by tapping institutional and long-term capital, which can be leveraged for public investments. As a part of the larger movement for balancing the human needs with environmental conservation, Needy AIOG launched an electric vehicle awareness portal called EAMRIT at COP26. It will act as the one-stop destination for all information on electric vehicles. It will also act towards raising awareness towards adoption of electric vehicles, their purchase, investment opportunities and policies in this regard, etc. Further, Development Monitoring and Evaluation Office, DMEO, as an attached office of Needy AIOG has been mandated to actively monitor and evaluate the implementation of schemes, programs, and initiatives of the government. It leads to track performance, determine outcomes, thus promoting evidence-based policymaking. 9.2.3 Challenges in Needy AIOG. Needy AIOG was formed with a vision to take lead the country on a developmental path through creative thinking, optimum utilization of resources, and utilization of youth power of the nation 7 years after its formation. The performance of Needy AIOG has not been able to please its detractors. Some experts are of the opinion that Needy AIOG has led to centralization of ideas, shifting the theater of activity from ministries to the AIOG. It is also argued that, in absence of powers to allocate funds, the body has limited relevance for states, especially when different parties are in power at the union and state. It is opined from some quarters that Needy AIOG as a think tank should maintain a respectable distance from the government. However, alleged uncritical praise of fake government-sponsored schemes and programs reduces its veracity. Moreover, it is believed that Needy AIOG has been entrusted with too many functions for a think tank and thus runs the risk of crumbling under its own pressure.